The Indian grocery store has been evolving. But have you ever wondered where the ideas for new grocery store products come from? Well, it mostly comes from America. The American grocery store is a sight to behold. These stores remind me of YouTube, with all of these colorful products vying for your attention just like YouTube thumbnails. But do you know where America gets its inspiration for products from? Well, all over the world. An example of an American entrepreneur inspired by a brand from outside the US is Howard Schultz of Starbucks. In the early 1980s, Howard Schultz was working for Starbucks, which at that time was a small Seattle-based company that sold high-quality coffee beans and equipment, but not brewed coffee. In 1983, Schultz traveled to Italy. Let's go and see what he saw in Italy. So while they make the coffee, let me tell you the story of Schultz. In 1983, he traveled to Italy and was captivated by the vibrant coffee culture he encountered there, particularly in the espresso bars of Milan like this one. These espresso bars served as social hubs where people gathered to enjoy coffee and conversation. He got inspired and brought that back to America. From pizza to coffee, America has integrated the world's products and brought them in one place. I was in America for a while, across New York, LA and San Francisco, and I took notes. So today, with cameras, YouTube and obstructing an entire street, I can tell you what works for America. So if you're an entrepreneur that wants to bring products to India, there are very important business and branding lessons from that country in this video that you can learn from. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and let's get started. The first lesson is that America is a very good product nation, but a terrible services nation. So I wanted a consultation with the neurologist there, which cost me close to 60,000 rupees. Yes, I even kept the bill. But I had to reach out to this doctor on social media because calling and booking an appointment in America with a doctor is nearly impossible. Every single place that I called only worked from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and barely picked up their phone. Seriously. And 2 hours of lunch between 12 to 2. They simply didn't pick up calls during the time. The only hospital that connected gave me an appointment for 3 months later. It felt like a bloody government office. It's the same with restaurants or any other American services. People there seem to dislike their jobs and they're generally frustrated and rude. I don't blame them. This is not a character judgment. This is just an observation I made. Even the hotels, the good ones, the service is not like Indian hospitality. A good Indian hotel where I stayed over would give you room slippers. But I didn't see any of that in any of the hotels I stayed in there. And I stayed in multiple hotels in America. Now I don't care about slippers, it's just a point. But it's about contrast. Phone call customer service there for anything, not just the hospitals, is nearly impossible. And unlike India, they haven't really moved on to app culture for everything except for maybe food deliveries and cabs. Even the staff at the local airports were just uninterested, and one of them even shouted at me for asking for help with which gate to go to. At a petrol pump, you're supposed to help yourself. The maid and cook culture we see with some families in India doesn't exist in America. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just telling you what the country is like. But the flip side is that American products are unparalleled. I think because entrepreneurs there figured out that services were anyway unreliable, they just got really good at building products and even doing research. Nowhere in the world have products been optimized for performance, taste, or looks like in America. Even the damn Rice Krispie that you eat will be optimized for taste that you cannot put it down. That brings me to my second point, that America really understands product packaging. The unhealthy products are made to look healthy. The healthy products are packaged like candy. Now, we've all seen this before on YouTube thumbnails. And it's something I tell all the creators inside our company, right? That content should be like protein. It should be information dense, packed with insights, and useful to whoever's watching. But the packaging, the outside, the wrapper, the title and the thumbnail, boss, that has to be something straight out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. A protein that is disguised like a carbohydrate does very, very well. But India, on the other hand, sucks at this. Look at this product I just picked up from the store. While there is some group of people that will buy this, you are not optimizing for purchases with this kind of packaging. Talk to a YouTuber. And as expected, the products at grocery stores in America that are doing the best are by YouTubers. Every 7-Eleven I went to has Mr. Beast's Feastables at the front and center and Logan Paul's Prime in every fridge. The same title thumbnail game played by these YouTubers on this platform has been brought to the real world. The next American lesson is on optionality. I think there's definitely some correlation with optionality in a grocery store and the GDP of the country. America has an insane number of options for everything. You want almonds? Well, there's blueberry flavored almonds. You want Coca-Cola? Well, there's cherry flavored, vanilla flavored, raspberry spiced Coke. The list of drinks and food items is endless, and they exist in many form factors. You can get lactose-free protein shakes in a bottle with 40 grams of protein for really cheap. Now we have to do some thinking to ask ourselves why this doesn't exist in India. The question to ask isn't why manufacturers aren't bringing these options, but to ask who the eats blueberry flavored almonds. Every new product line that you start costs money, from the packaging to the actually putting blueberries in the almonds. You won't do it unless there's an audience or a customer base for it. And this works in America because there's an audience for everything. They've imported ideas from all over the world and there's an audience for that. There are some people who love cherry flavored Coke, some who love one of the several flavors of Prime. There's an audience for everything. And that's a function of the disposable income and how cheap it is to build incremental products there. If you have an idea for a new product as an entrepreneur, you can try it cheaply. Customers make some extra spendable money and a portion of people's budgets go into trying new things. So I assume that as India's disposable income goes up, we will see new products enter our grocery stores too. The next lesson is that America has dignity of labor. There isn't some crazy status difference between a barber and a software engineer. I mean, look, there is some, but it's not as pronounced as in India, where if you are a barber or a petrol pump assistant, you'll be treated like a second-class citizen. American culture places a strong emphasis on individualism and self-reliance. Work is often seen as a way to achieve personal independence and success, and all types of work are viewed as valuable contributions to society. There's also strong unions for labor, whereas India grew up with the caste system. And even though that's on its way out, we applied a similar system to jobs. And because America really used to encourage entrepreneurs in the past, which is starting to change now, if someone can take the perceived lowliest of jobs and build a business around it, they become cool. Like a tailor who makes his own premium tailoring boutique or a barber who makes a premium barber shop. Entrepreneurship is the method in America to convert any job into a high status one for everyone there. Next, America really values space. I was in California and really trying to think through why California looks better than India. The answer, of course, was that California has 800 miles of coastline and mountains, but also because their infra is better. And the main thing about their infra is the space between things. And there's a very interesting problem here that has no solution, but I still want to try and describe. The gap between one end of the road and another is really wide, and the buildings are better designed. That's the main infrastructural change I can think of that will make India like 70 to 80% of California, at least when it comes to road and building infra. Now, the buildings being better designed is going to change in India. If you take Bangalore and you see new construction in the city, the designs of the buildings aren't really that bad anymore. Even commercial constructions are decent now. We've picked up some aesthetic sense. The buildings aren't really tall because we actually have a regulation called the floor area ratio. But I still have the biggest problem with width. But in India, I think for now, that's unsolvable. A lot of people think this is because of political corruption, and yes, maybe that's true in some instances, but that's not all it is. It's because this is a complicated problem. Because roads in India are already encroached with buildings. To widen the roads, you have to remove the first layer of houses and buildings closest to the roads. Most people who live there are obviously going to have a problem with this. Even though relocating people is one of the only solutions to fixing these localities, on the side of the people living in those houses, if I was one of the people living in one of those houses, I'd be really upset. There's an emotional appeal of, hey, you're displacing my house, and I get it. Imagine the inconvenience they have to go through. And there's usually a fight around it. Most people will put a case, it takes years, so nothing really happens. On the other end, if you as a city don't displace some people, you cannot widen roads. One extreme of this is Saudi. They're building their new city, The Line, in Neom, and they handle this in the poorest way possible. former Saudi Arabian intelligence officer Al-Nezi revealed to the BBC that he was instructed to kill any indigenous people who refused to vacate their homes for the construction of the NEOM project. We obviously can't do that, that's inhuman, but that's the problem. You look at something like the pyramids or Taj Mahal, you and I don't see the mass human torture that went into building it. But that's the thing about life. All of these beautiful, grand things usually come with problems. It's much easier for us to blame politicians or some random people instead of recognizing that this is a very nuanced problem. Now, because we can't widen existing roads easily, people are being careful with constructing in new places. With new land, we're building carefully and well planned. Like some parts of North Bangalore, close to the airport, are being built in a much better fashion because you have a shot at doing things better if it's a clean slate. The problem with India is finding a clean slate is hard. The next thing about America is soft culture and how it's celebrated. You know that entire vibe shift in India where we had started to say things like Bollywood sucks and it's got nepotism and it should be banned and all that? Yeah, America is different. This is a picture of a random store. And what I noticed is that there was a trivia night around Parks and Recreation, which is a TV show. These types of things are all over Brooklyn. They're also there in Japan, but more related to anime. This is a group session, a quiz, some community activity around something fictional. Somebody made the show and now there's fan clubs about it and it's celebrated. And I actually did a U-turn around things like Bollywood recently, right? And I'll tell you the value of a Bollywood or a trivia night around Parks and Recreation. The media these days has made it seem like the world sucks. And sometimes it's exaggerated, but they're not entirely wrong. Anything can actually go wrong. And in many people's life, it does. You could lose your parents, you could get cancer, you could lose your job, you could get into an accident and get paralyzed. Your uncle might have stolen your dad's property. All sorts of shit happens, especially as you get older. Without entertainment to escape, some of us fall into depression. In psychiatry, there's a concept called rumination. Rumination is the process of continuously thinking about the same thoughts which tend to be sad or dark. It's a repetitive, often negative focus on distressing situations and their possible causes and consequences rather than solutions. And the more you think about these thoughts, the worse you get. You can't think your way through these thoughts. You need to switch frame. You need to do something else. And today with social media, many of us are lonely. So a trivia club like this, where for some time you anchor on something else entertaining, just temporarily, with other people in the club, is good for you. A lot of young kids in their early 20s think that all forms of escapism is bad. Now, agreed, there's some forms of escapism that's bad, like drugs. But Bollywood is India's national escapism. It's its pastime. And it's not a drug. Nobody gets addicted to Bollywood and watches 10 movies a day. Now, for business-minded folks, an understanding that people make fan clubs, trivia nights and more around intellectual property, some idea, some story you've cooked up in your head, is important to understand. To collect enough people together, the thing needs a story. And India sucks when it comes to telling stories because we're not told how to do that in college. Except for maybe movies and mythology, we are lacking in stories. But as an entrepreneur, if you can marry media and community, there is a market for it. America takes its media and intellectual properties very seriously. But the greatest branding exercise is none of this. The greatest branding exercise of America combines all of the above points. The amazing products, the respect for entrepreneurship and the dignity of labor, the optionality for people to express their individuality, the beauty of infrastructure, and the production of mass media and taking their intellectual property seriously. That great branding exercise is called the American Dream. The American Dream is the national ethos of the United States, with ideals of democracy, rights, liberty, opportunity, and equality. It's rooted in the belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what class they were born into, can achieve their own version of success in a society where upward mobility is possible for everyone. It was spread through the entire world through the power of media and IP. But parts of it are not true. People say that New York is the city that never sleeps. But New York does sleep. By 12, I was there. People say anyone can make it in America, but they don't tell you that lots of people don't make it. I have at least 20 videos of homeless people and crazy behavior. It's been normalized there. We met a guy who keeps all the fridges in his store locked because homeless people keep stealing stuff. The truth is that the media version of America is a lot more exaggerated than it really is. It's impressive, no doubt about that, but much more impressive on screen. But you know what? That's okay. To be honest, it's what built America to what it is. It brought the smartest and most hardworking immigrants from all over the world, including India, to come there. The greatest hiring campaign in the world, driven entirely by media. Using this immigrant talent fueled by the American dream to build the best products and featuring them in the media to bring even more talent. It's why I'm so bullish on India, and no matter our flaws, I will stay and say India is awesome. Not because our services economy is genuinely better, but because we have to do some of this storytelling too, like the Americans did 50 years ago. America has now become different. There's an attack on capitalism, and that's an opening. That's an opening for us to take. While that decline for America might take decades, someone else needs to create an optimistic story of a country, any country. And I think on the back of apps, startups, media, and technology, India is a strong contender. There's a saying that Disney is the storyteller of the American empire, and India lacks a Disney. That's why I started EOS. That's why I chose video technology as a field now. We need to conjure up the Indian dream, and we need to do it now. That is the final branding exercise.